Then how does NIAF stand out among all those Asian and Asian American film festivals across the U.S., except that it's a real festival?
How do we stand out? I mean, I think we're firmly planted as one of the, I would say, highly respected and regarded film festivals, Asian film festivals, but not just Asian film festivals, but film festivals in general. I think every year we've always provided a lot of fun. And I think people, and a lot of excitement and enthusiasm. I think people remember that, and we have super fans. We have people that come to see every single movie, and that's like 50 to 60 movies each year. So we've got that kind of excitement going for us.
So recently there are some Asian American films like Crazy Rich Asians and Farewell. These films are like really well received among U.S. audiences. And do you think this phenomenon can help? Yeah.
I certainly hope so. It's great to see. It's great to see Asian representation, indeed, in these Asian American films, and it's glad that that's being noticed. Will it help NIAF? I would hope that it would just broaden people's interest in Asian cinema in general, and bring more of an audience to us. Although maybe, if they're big Hollywood movies, it's just like another Hollywood movie in some way, maybe. But the representation is very important, sure.
And do you think Asian films and Asian American films are separated?
Interesting question. I mean, I guess it depends on the film. Again, like Crazy Rich Asians, to me, I like the film, but it's very much a Hollywood film. It's just that there's everyone in the movie is Asian, which is a great achievement. Exciting. We look at Asian American films. We haven't shown any recently because maybe we haven't found the right film. But and also there is also happening in the summer the Asian American International Film Festival, which also shows Asian cinema as well as a lot of Asian American cinema, because that's much more of their mission. I think they run concurrently, maybe? What am I trying to say? I think that the two cinemas, they share something, maybe.
Okay, sure. Then will NIAF program some Asian American films in the future?
When we find the right film, for sure, I would hope so, yeah.
Look forward to that. So now we will ask some questions about you.
Okay.
So how did you become interested in Chinese cinema?
Like a lot of American boys through martial arts movies. I think that was it. Kung Fu, and then I was seeing samurai films, and then I was reading about them, and then I was reading about Kurosawa. Of course, this is not Chinese cinema, but it's funny too, because at this time it was easy to see martial arts films and Hong Kong films. It was not easy to see mainland Chinese films, or even Taiwanese films at this time, other than Kung Fu films. But you became curious about that, and so over the years, I would broaden my horizons and look for things like that. I remember in the early 90s, it was amazing that there was a Taiwanese film, barely anyone saw it, but it had come to New York, I think, Rebels of the Neon God. It was a great film, but you couldn't see any other Taiwanese films really. And then gradually there was the Ang Lee and so forth. So you were able to see more and more Chinese language cinema. So I think, how did my interest develop? The same thing. That was my gateway was martial arts, and then it just gradually grew as I became more hungry for different kinds of cinema.
Okay. Can you name some of your favorite Chinese films or Chinese directors?
Well, I would talk about Chinese language cinema. You and I talked about Hu Jingquan the other day, King Hu, who is one of my favorite directors. He was Chinese, and then in Hong Kong and Taiwan, and is famous for his wuxia films, for his martial arts films. It's a true auteur, I think. And then talking about mainland China, I was thinking about this really hard, because it's hard to think about. It's such a long and kind of rich cinema history, and I'm besides thinking about the fifth generation and Jia Zhangke and now directors now, I'm not sure which directors I should know, besides the Fang Xiaogang.
Like, what do you mean by you should know?
Well, like, who are the most important directors besides who I mentioned? in the history of China. For example, well, the most famous Chinese movie, one of the most famous from back in the day is, what is it called? Spring in a Small Town?
Yeah, it's
Right.
yeah.
But I don't know any other movies by that director, do I? Should I?
Well, depends. Like,
So I feel like maybe even though I think I know about Chinese films more than the average American, I still feel my knowledge is not enough. But to say, especially if I'm talking about mainland cinema, to talk about like which directors do you really like or so forth. I like so much, but whereas it's easy for me to say for Chinese language cinema, like King Hu, or I really like Ye Rujiang or something like this. Or Hong Kong again, like maybe I like Johnny To or Peng, what's his name? Peng Ho Xiong?
Hong Hao
I think, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So, like, you do care about cinema history of China, right? Like, what do you think about
sure.
Chinese cinema?
It's interesting. I just don't know enough. I don't know enough yet.
So, can you tell us in a few words what cinema means to you?
That's a great question. I always wonder about that, and it's a very philosophical question. I just love all the stories, and it's almost, I love how metaphorical it is, and how funny it is when you're living in reality, and then you're watching another reality, and in some way you get engrossed in that. And that's almost a metaphor into itself. I don't know beyond that. Cinema is just, for me, first of all, I don't know, some people love reading, and I've always gravitated more just towards the audiovisual of cinema. So.
And do you have any suggestions for those who strive to become a programmer in the future?
Sure, so this is super fundamental, but first of all, just really cultivate your love of films. And then, practically speaking, volunteer at a film festival and ask a lot of questions, and intern somewhere, and find out what it means to curate. I would say, again, cultivate an aesthetic sensibility. Personally, I would say, no, don't think. Obviously, when you do any endeavor, you need to think about practicality and functionality, but I always think more about aesthetics than business.
So, you was a cinema studies major in college. Do you think that's necessary to be like?
Not necessary to be a cinema studies major or have a degree in cinema studies. I think it is. It definitely helps if you have an affinity for film, and I think also, for example, I meet a lot of people that have volunteered at film festivals and love film, but they don't feel comfortable articulating it. Now, I've written on film, and I write a lot of the blurbs for NIAF, so that's something that I feel natural to. So a lot of people don't. A lot of people that think, oh, you're a programmer. You know, I love films too. I watch all this stuff, but I couldn't do that, or I wouldn't know how to do that. So.
Yeah. So first, just be confident to let people know that you are professional about that, right?
Sure. Try to remain open-minded and humble.
Okay.
And remember that, and this goes across doing anything, but you should always value the idea of teamwork.
Okay.
My question is, so you said you were a film buff when you were growing up. Now, a lot of the film buffs in my generation or my younger generation, we use stuff like the social media, like Douban in China, we use Letterboxd in America. Do you see any difference between the film buffs of today and film buffs of before because of these like new online presence, film Twitter, I don't know, stuff like that?
So all that stuff is so great because it makes everything so easy. Because for me, I mentioned my gateway to Asian cinema was martial arts films. When I was, so at the time, when I got into them, there was a magazine called Martial Arts Movies, and I would religiously read it, and it would have reviews and articles and stuff. And it was here that I read a long article about samurai films and learned about Kurosawa. That's how I had to, that was my Letterboxd, or I had to go, research things that way. There was no internet. And now as the internet has become more and more convenient and more advanced, it's great. I mean, I love Letterboxd. There's an expression, with its command of the mainstream, the avant-garde has ceased to exist. That means that everything that was in the margins has become more and more easily accessible. Nothing is like avant-garde anymore. Nothing is obscure, or nothing is like. It's all become mainstream. We're part of it. And nowadays, it's like you can have like Letterboxd can have millions of users across the world, I imagine, and they all could be talking about some really obscure movie from the mid-60s or something. I like doing the videos like this. It's fun talking about films and stuff.
Cool.
Yeah,
I don't even know what I look like in that camera, and I don't want to know.
I don't want to know either. I'm sure my hair is going this way and that way.
Oh, you guys both look amazing.
Thank you.
After a day of work.
Yeah, I did videos before, and then I saw the video afterwards. I was like, oh, what's going on? Boom. Oh well, nothing I can do
Why
about
is
it.
he still shooting? Like.